Story recapped here. Today, I'm going to explain an adventure, action, and fantasy film called The Final Level Escaping Rancala. Spoilers ahead, watch out, and take care. Sarah Harrings goes to her brother Jake, who is trying to beat the highest score in an arcade game. However, he can't surpass the top scorer named the King. She advises him to stick to multiplayer games so she can help him, but Jake insists that he doesn't need her help. Seeing how upset he is for not winning, Sarah offers to stall their mom while Jake gives the game one last shot. After losing the game again, Jake walks out but stops when light flashes, leading him to a new game called Rancala. Once again, he sees the King's name all over the scoreboard, piquing his interest. Just then, the game tells him that the King is waiting for him and even mentions his name. Intrigued, Jake inserts a coin, presses start, and disappears in a flash of light. 10 years later, Sarah opens an arcade as a tribute to her missing brother. Her friends, Chrissy and Ray, help her set up the place, though they bicker a lot. Although the girls assure Sarah that the arcade's opening will be successful, she can't help but feel sad that Jake won't witness it. In his honor, she adds the highest scorer award with his name as part of the decoration. Later, the last game for the arcade arrives, and it's Rancala. Ray sets it up, but it shows that someone is already playing. Seeing the Player 1 icon, they notice that it looks like Jake. Suddenly, Rancala reveals Jake's name, and this scares the girls. Ray tries to explain that maybe the game is stuck because it's waiting for 3 more players. Chrissy refuses to play, thinking that it's haunted. However, Ray says they have nothing to lose, so they should just try it. Sarah agrees because if the game functions well, they can use it for the arcade's opening. Finally, they all agree to play, so Ray enthusiastically presses start, but the game sucks her inside. This horrifies Sarah and Chrissy as they see Ray's name on the screen. After failing to get help from the police, Sarah theorizes that Jake has been stuck in the game for years. Chrissy thinks it's insane, but Sarah insists that they have to save him and Ray. After drinking some alcohol for courage, Chrissy enters the game, and Sarah follows. Sarah wakes up on a beach, feeling disoriented. In the distance, Ray and Chrissy yell at her to turn around, and when she does, she sees a massive shark behind her. Horrified, Sarah makes a run for it and reunites with her friends. She asks what's happening, so Ray assumes that they're in the first level of the game and they have to go forward to get to the next one. As she had time to explore the game, Ray shows them that pressing a button on their bag shows a menu system and a progressional map. The map shows the war camp, so Ray assumes that it's where they'll find Jake. To complete the level 1, they must find the fisherman and battle the level boss. Suddenly, Chrissy alerts the other girls to a man running in their direction. He's yelling at them to get off the beach as sharks begin falling from the sky. The man and the ladies run into a cave where he welcomes the girls to Rancala, claiming that they have to beat the super boss in the war camp to win their freedom. However, there's a time limit, and if they fail to win by then, they'll be trapped. Sarah asks him about Jake, and he responds that he's in the war camp and his timer hasn't expired yet. Suddenly, a shark shoots itself in the cave, so they all run. The man explains that Rancala constantly evolves, and everything is designed to kill them. He adds that they each have specific skills which they can combine to defeat the level boss. Just then, a tornado full of sharks begins to form in the ocean, and the man leaves them to fend for themselves. While checking their inventory, a shark flies towards Chrissy and she instinctively punches it, causing it to disintegrate. Realizing that they have martial arts skills, the girls team up to fight the sharks. However, the sharks keep coming, and Ray figures that they're just minions under the control of a boss. Chrissy finds an explosive stone in her bag, thinking they can use it to kill the boss. Using typical game physics, Chrissy spins around and goes faster and faster until she launches the stone into the tornado. The tornado explodes and they finally pass level 1. After winning, a board appears, showing their experience points. This allows them to choose a skill to upgrade, and after doing so, they switch to the map, which tells them the next location is the jungle. Under the map, Chrissy points out a timer, which counts down from 12 hours and 52 minutes. Assuming that this is their time limit, the girls move on to the next level. Not long after, the girls enter the second level with new outfits. While exploring, they overhear soldiers who are about to execute a thief. During this, they overhear that the king's right-hand man is named Jake. Just then, a spider hops into Chrissy's arm, and she panics, alerting the soldiers. Cornered, the girls fight and allow the thief to escape. However, Sarah gets separated from the group. While searching for a way back to Sarah, Chrissy becomes afraid and hopeless. Because of this, Ray dares her to ask the soldiers for help. Seeing her look mournful, Ray sympathizes with her and encourages her to focus on their task. Sarah continues to run but stops after discovering a pit of snakes blocking the path. Because of this, she checks her inventory for anything that can help her. Meanwhile, Ray and Chrissy attempt to cross a bridge with a river full of piranhas. Afraid, Chrissy cries, so Ray encourages her to face her fears. However, before she can cross, an alligator suddenly appears and swallows Ray. Chrissy panics and soon gets cornered by the soldiers, who hold her at gunpoint. She closes her eyes and accepts her fate, but when she opens them, she finds that Ray has defeated the soldiers. As Chrissy gets confused since she saw Ray die, a prompt appears over Ray's head, showing that she only has 2 lives remaining. This leads them to realize that they have 3 lives in the game. Meanwhile, Sarah finds herself facing the level boss. They get into one-on-one combat and she gives her all to defeat him. Sarah gets the upper hand and tosses the boss into the snake pit. With this, the second level is complete. Afterward, Sarah traverses through the forest in search of the others, but suddenly finds herself in a desert as level 3 has begun. While searching, Sarah starts to feel weak because her health is running low. Suddenly, she gets pursued by a dinosaur, so she immediately runs. Sarah manages to hide until the coast is clear, but when she looks up, the dinosaur drops down and eats her. Shortly after, she respawns in a new location and discovers that she has just spent 1 of her 3 lives. The encounter, however, earns her enough experience points to upgrade a skill. As she chooses which skill to upgrade, she spots something in the distance, and it's Chrissy and Ray speeding away from a dust storm. Seeing this, Sarah upgrades her speed to run with them. Escaping the dust storm, the 3 then climb a mountain as the game instructed. During this, Chrissy and Ray open the possibility of Jake forgetting his identity. His time must have run out, so he became the king's right-hand man. Hearing this, Sarah breaks down, saying that she can't give up on her brother like she did when he went missing. Because of this, Chrissy and Ray assure her that they'll win the game and save Jake. Suddenly, a hunter shoots Ray, and she dies. Enraged, Sarah and Chrissy attack the hunter, who also happens to be the level boss. This boss is tougher than the ones before, and they easily get overpowered. Chrissy gets knocked down, so Sarah fights the boss head-on. After several blows, she tries kicking the gun from his hand, but it still falls back in his grasp. Before he can shoot, however, Chrissy recovers and shoots him with a gun from her inventory. Soon, Ray responds and gets creeped out upon seeing her own corpse. With 1 life left, the rest advise her to stay behind. However, she refuses to give up and insists on continuing. They then check level 4 and discover that it's named the Dark Woods. There, they discover a camp owned by a shrouded figure. Sarah asks the figure about Jake, and it states that Jake is no longer their friend because he now belongs to Rancala. Ray insists on leaving, saying that the figure is useless. Offended, the figure depletes Ray's health, endangering her life. Knowing she has 1 life left, Chrissy pleads with the figure to take her life instead. With that, the figure releases Ray and kills Chrissy instead. Despite her friend's death, Sarah asks the figure how to find Jake and escape the game. The figure only spews out confusing information, saying that it's too late to go back, so they have to go down to go back up. Shortly after, Chrissy responds and Ray thanks her for saving her life. Meanwhile, the shrouded figure leaves, despite Sarah's pleas. As they attempt to head to the war camp, the level boss appears. It's still the shrouded figure, but it's now multiplied into 3. Chrissy and Sarah take the front to protect Ray, who now has a depleted last life. They battle the creatures, but their enemies seem more interested in Ray, knowing that she's down to her last life. As Ray climbs a tree for safety, Chrissy and Sarah kill 2 of the figures, but the remaining one refuses to die after several blows. Ray realizes that they have to work together, so she hops down and allows her friends to propel her into kicking the last enemy, defeating it. Later on, they plan on what skill to upgrade. Ray chooses health, Chrissy chooses strength, and Sarah chooses intelligence. Shortly after, they walk into the final level, which is protected by guards. While sneaking around, Sarah sees Jake, but Ray suggests having a backup plan. From Chrissy's pack, they find a tranquilizer, so they plan to inject Jake in case he doesn't come with them willingly. Finally, they approach Jake, but he's no longer the brother that Sarah once knew. Consumed by power and violence, he is now loyal to the king and no longer remembers them, so Sarah tries to get him to remember her. When he calls her name, Sarah gets teary-eyed and approaches him, but he grabs her by the neck and summons the guards. Chrissy tries to sedate Jake, but he leads her into injecting Sarah instead, knocking her out. Later, Sarah wakes up and finds herself and her friends before the king. He addresses the thief from earlier, revealing that he has already killed his family as punishment for his crimes. After the thief is taken away, Jake kicks Sarah to face the king. When he asks why she came to Rancala, Sarah responds that she wants to take her brother home. Holding them at gunpoint, the king forces Sarah to apologize for trespassing in his territory. He then shows them a rhino that obeys his commands, much like every other creature and soldier. Still, Sarah insists that she only wants to take her brother home, but Jake denies being her sibling. Oddly, the king asks her what year it is in the outside world, but Sarah doesn't respond, so they get thrown into a cage. In the cage, the girls discuss how they've noticed that the king seemed less controlled than the other characters. Suddenly, another challenger appears in a separate cage. Crying, she tells them that she used to have a name, but she can't remember anymore. She reveals that the king is actually human from the outside world like them. He harnessed his skills and defeated the former ruler of Rancala. Afterward, the king chose to stay in the game despite having the opportunity to return home. Hearing this, Ray claims that beating the king is the only way to escape the game. However, the challenger says it's impossible, and if they lose, they'll face dire consequences. Luckily for Jake, the king spared him, but the challenger says they won't receive the same mercy. She also adds that there is no way to save Jake because he's now a part of the game. Hearing this, Sarah begins to get discouraged. Later, two soldiers drag the challenger away, but as they take her, she reminds the girls to resist. Seeing this, the girls decide to fight for their freedom instead of living like prisoners. However, their only shot at leaving the game is to challenge the king, and Sarah does just that. Shortly after, they challenge the king into a fight, which he accepts. Before facing them, however, he sends his men to attack the girls. Sarah, Chrissy, and Ray fight through 3 rounds, using old-style arcade fighting moves to defeat their foes. After eliminating the others, they face the king, who notes that he made Jake his right-hand man because he was able to defeat the other level single-handedly, just like he did. However, Sarah thinks their problem is worrying about fighting alone when there's strength in numbers. She adds that family is much stronger than Rancala, and Jake is still part of their family. They then remind Jake of who he is, insisting that he's their family and he was free in the outside world. Sarah tells him that she never stopped thinking about him and finally built the arcade they dreamed of when they were kids. Finally, Jake regains his memories and runs to embrace his sister. However, the king breaks the reunion and reminds them that they still need to defeat him to escape. Jake volunteers to fight him alone, but the girls remind him of what they just pointed out about teamwork and family. Still, Jake is determined and faces the king alone. He engages the king in the final boss fight and seems to have a fighting chance at first. However, the king soon does a combo attack on him, knocking him down. Still, Jake keeps fighting and throws an uppercut, ending the fight. The girls are impressed, yet they realize that the portal hasn't come out to take them home. Just then, the king gets up and demands for the portal as well, revealing that he's been wanting to go home as well. Sarah realizes they must fight the super boss together to finish the game. Because of this, they take their positions, but the king unleashes an energy blast at them. Before they can retaliate, the rhino joins the fight, creating a new challenge. The group takes turns beating the king, but the rhino keeps breaking their momentum. Tired of the animal, the girls kick it down, defeating it to focus on the king. With the girls holding him, Jake punches the king, but he manages to free himself and break Jake's wrist. With everyone knocked down, the king admits that he thought of going home after their little speech about family, but now they reminded him why he stayed in the first place, for power. Before eliminating them, he asks Sarah what her last words are, and she says, "Resist." Suddenly, the challenger appears and joins in the fight. The king loses his momentum and the rest of the team gets back on their feet. With teamwork, they capture the king, allowing the siblings to land the final blow. Finally, Rancala acknowledges their victory, and the portal appears. As the rest of the team runs towards it, the challenger stays behind. She claims that someone needs to stay to become the new super boss, and she's willing to take that responsibility. Sarah thanks the challenger before entering the portal. Jake is the last to leave, but before he jumps in, he asks the challenger what will happen to the king. She promises not to kill him, but she wants him to suffer, so Jake hesitates. Meanwhile, the girls return to the arcade but don't find Jake. Just then, they hear noise from the other side of the room, and it's Jake, who's still in his teenage body. With him is another teenager who they recognize as the king, whose real name is Martin. Jake says that leaving him behind didn't feel right, so he brought Martin with him. Despite Chrissy and Ray's distrust of Martin, Sarah understands Jake sympathizes with their former enemy. Later, Sarah shows Jake the highest score award she put up for him. Meanwhile, Chrissy and Ray look at the scoreboard in Rancala, and they both agree that they make a good team. Just then, they gaze at each other's eyes and lean in for a kiss, only to realize that Martin is watching them with interest. Not long after, the game gets put out of order. However, as soon as it's left alone, it restarts and waits for new players.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.